If you love liberty, declare your independence by signing the Shire Society Declaration at shiresociety.com.
And I'm sure that he's heard this about 1,500,000 times. Nobody is my guest today. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, it's going to be just you bloviating for an hour? No, that's the man's name. And the man's name is, well, let's try this again. There we go. As I was saying, we have nobody on the air with us today, and nobody lives in Keene. He's running for governor. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I am very well.
Thank you for letting me come and bloviate with you.
Oh, we're always happy to bloviate with anybody at just about any time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a politician. I'll bloviate till the cows come home, and then I'll bloviate to the cows.
Well, then let me ask you this question first. As you're a member of the Free State organization, as am I, and you are a member of Free Keene,
indeed,
which is not exactly friendly to government, why would you then want to become part of it?
Well, I mean, why would a virus want to become part of you? Because it wants to destroy you.
Okay, so you're looking to play breakout with the government from the inside.
Well, nobody tells the truth is the thing. And that's the thing that the government can't deal with, is the truth. If all of the truth were out there, the severed heads of the politicians would be on spikes. You know, they can't have the truth.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. At one point in life, your name was Rich Paul, not related to the Pauls of the U.S. Congress, correct?
Well, related only by a common cause.
Right. Okay. You're not family.
We're not family. No, I was born to an Armenian family of Pauls.
Okay. And you ran for mayor in Keene. How did that go?
About average. I got 2%, but it was my first run, and so it was basically a warm up.
Okay.
You know? The thing is, what I do, because the system's rigged. The system's always been rigged. That's just a fact of life. So I may well never be elected by their rigged system, but that won't stop me from using it as a sounding board.
Okay. What inspired the change of name?
It was inspired by the run. Okay, because there's a number of philosophical things that I'm saying by being nobody. You could say in the Taoist sense that I've become the empty vessel. But at the same time, there's also, we're all nobodies, aren't we? Because, you ever hear George Carlin's routine about his club?
Oh, sure.
It's a great big club, and you're not in it. So you're nobody, okay? Just like me, we're nobodies together. We're not part of your system, you know. We don't fit. We don't belong. We're so that's part of it. I'm a nobody, you know. I'm just a guy who wants to live and be free, and they won't leave me alone. So I'm gonna go and bust their balls.
Okay. Let's start at the beginning with that. They won't leave you alone. Can you expand on that?
Well, I mean, the first fact of life in living under a government is you live under constant threat of extortion. You know, they are literally saying that you need to pay us for a contract that you never willingly entered into. You have to buy our product whether you want it or not. And that is the definition of wrong, okay? They are a corporation. The government is the mother of all corporations. And it is a corporation, but it's a double O corporation that's given itself a license to kill anybody it wants to, anytime, for any reason or for no reason. And the rest of us are just supposed to take it. Well, we're not gonna take it.
All right. Now, when you say buying the product, you mean taxation?
Yes, I'm talking about buying the security services, which are dubious at best. The only tangible benefit I've ever received from them is spending a year in jail locked up for weed. If that's the level of protection they can provide me with, I don't need it. I don't want it, and I don't want to pay for it.
Okay. Is there, or are there, legitimate government functions that do need to be paid for with taxes?
No, there is no, if you value a thing, pay for that thing. If you say, oh, but I won't pay what it's worth for me, well, then I have no sympathy for you. If you value a thing, you go out and provide it to the world. And if the world values what you provide to it, it will provide you with things in return.
Okay, it sounds like plain old-fashioned capitalism to me.
You could call it capitalism, but there's a danger to using that word, which is that if I talk about, if I talk to like an anarcho-socialist, what I describe as capitalism sounds more like what they describe as socialism than it does like our current system. Because in our current system, there's a very small group. There's 535 masters on this plantation, okay? And those are the people who have all of the real power under the system they've created. And that number is derived from the number of congressmen, plus the number of senators, plus the number of members of the Supreme Court, plus the president. That's the real power. The vice president doesn't count. They're the only ones who get a vote in how we live our lives.
All right, my guest this afternoon is nobody. He is running for governor. In fact, and this one was
I'm running for non-governor, kind of.
Non-governor.
But here's what I will do. Okay, this is how I will govern. The first thing that I will do is I will pardon every victimless crime in New Hampshire history. So if you're a felon for selling some weed, not anymore. If you are a felon for a gun crime, not anymore. But when I say gun crime, I'm talking about having one, not shooting somebody with it. That's a completely different class of offense. If you're a felon for a prostitution account, not anymore, because I'm making you what I give you back. If you vote for me and you're a felon, I give you back your humanity. I give you back your right to keep and bear arms. I give you your right to be a person, because it says in the Second Amendment that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the maintenance of the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if you can't carry a gun, you're not a person. And that's exactly what they said in Dred Scott. They said, no, we can't give human rights to black people because then they would be able to carry guns wherever they went. Look it up. It's in the decision. Okay? That's what humanity means. And that is what the system has taken from me. So you could say that the system made me nobody. Okay? I can't get a bank account because I trade in cryptocurrency. Okay? And so every bank I do business with instantly shuts down my account. And people say, well, why would you want to do business with your enemies in the banks? You're a crypto guy, right? Well, yeah, I'm a crypto guy. But part of being a crypto guy is we need liquidity in the crypto world to operate. Okay, and they are blockading us from our trade. They are doing everything they can to keep our dollars off the exchange because they don't want the price at the price of Bitcoin on exchanges to reflect the real value of dollars, which is approximately zero. Okay, you know how Rick and Morty, he managed to crash an entire civilization by saying that one of their dollars was worth one of their dollars to one of their dollars was worth zero of their dollars? Well, that's a parody of reality, but that's more or less what the Federal Reserve is doing it to itself.
All right, you are listening to Eric Scott on WASR, and Nobody is my guest. If you have a question for Nobody, please call 569.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. It does care. Nobody really does care. 569-5253 is our phone number. If you are listening online all over the world, the area code to New Hampshire is 603. That's 569-LAKE if you're interested. One of the things, Nobody, that really kind of knocked me back for a loop is that you're running in the Republican Party. I was a little surprised by that. Why the Republican Party and not the Libertarian Party, which you'd be a little closer to, I think, in terms of belief?
Yeah, well, you know, I don't hate the Libertarians, so you know, maybe I'm not the guy to represent their party. You know, what I'm putting forward is something that is completely different. Something that is not reflected by the left or the right in this country, which are both authoritarian. I'm talking for the man who loves liberty. Okay, and that's because he who does he support? Nobody. He wants to make his own choices. You know we did a phone poll recently, and we did the poll as a straight scientific poll, but what I wanted to do was do it as a poll that made a point. I wanted to say my first question would be, who should make your decisions for you? Should it be the president, the governor, the mayor, your mother, or nobody? Okay, there's only one right answer to that question. Okay, and then the second question is, this person is running for governor, or you know, whether it's Tester or whatever. These two people, Chris Sununu and Karen Testerman, are running for are running for this office. Would you rather have them or have nobody? Because anybody who knows me will tell you I'm a computer programmer. It's really hard to get me away from my computer for any reason. So, you know, other than signing pardons, which I will do as a labor of love, they're going to have a real hard time. I'm not going to go out there and crack anybody's head, and I'm not going to give the orders to crack anybody's head. So pretty much they're going on without me. What do they got in that office? They got nobody.
All right, well, let's find out. We have a caller for Nobody. Good afternoon, sir or ma'am. You're on the phone with Nobody.
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
Hi.
Thanks for calling. Nobody cares.
Haha, that's really funny.
I think that's going to be my shtick.
What's your question, sir?
So you're like some pothead that changed his name to Nobody, thinking that's going to do anything?
Yes, that's me.
Wow, that's really going to shake up the system, man.
Hopefully. I figure the one thing, the sunlight is always the best disinfectant. And what they need is a legion of truth tellers to stand up and tell the truth. The problem with this political system is that nobody tells the truth. Well, nobody's here to tell it.
All right, well, you seem to be this real truth teller. You think you know about the Second Amendment, which I'm all for. I'm all for the Second Amendment. I understand that it's for citizens to carry. you know where it comes from?
It was written on paper by a bunch of guys who made a lot of mistakes, but that was not one of the mistakes.
The founding fathers. Those would be the founding fathers, the greatest Americans who ever lived, right?
Yeah. Well, but what else does that say? If you want to understand the meaning of the Second Amendment, you can't just read, 30 words and think you know what you're talking about. You read the Magna Carta, okay? The Magna Carta was an agreement that was forced out of the king by free men at sword point when they said, you will sign this agreement, you will respect our rights, not grant them to us, but respect them, or we will kill you. Okay? And then in the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson writes that it is to protect our rights that governments are instituted amongst men, that they derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, and that whenever any form of government becomes
please.
I got half a sentence.
Let's lower the testosterone for just 1 second, okay? In the interest
this guy has no testosterone.
If you're going to insult the man, I'm going to kick you loose, okay? That's not what we do.
I've had worse.
Okay, I'm sure
it's only a flesh wound.
Okay. However, in the interest of time, nobody, can you please address the caller's questions?
Okay. What part of the question did I not address? I do smoke weed. I did change my name to Nobody because I do believe it will have an impact. What else did you ask me?
Stop filibustering. Stop filibustering. I'll ask you.
Okay, all right.
Stop filibustering and I'll ask you.
Okay, caller, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, yeah. So the history of the Second Amendment comes from the Glorious Revolution, Catholics versus Protestants in England. That's where it comes from. It doesn't come from this random anarcho-libertarian socialist idea, which, by the way, came out of the French Revolution.
It came from one group of people saying, you are infringing upon our rights, and if you continue, we will kill you. That's what all politics is.
Oh, okay. Please let the caller finish his sentence, Nobody, before you respond, please.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, it came after the Glorious Revolution during the Protestant Catholic Wars of England, where after the Protestants took back power from the Catholic minority of England, they said, we will have it so that all citizens have the right to defend themselves in case of a religious insurrection. So Catholics can defend themselves from Protestants and vice versa. Okay, it had nothing to do with this rationalist self-ownership that came out of libertarian socialists like, everyone out of the French Revolution that this guy loves.
Okay. Okay. Now, is that the entirety of your question, caller?
Well, I'd like to have him respond to that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, nobody will give a non-answer to your non-question. Basically, to try and parse that one. But the bottom line is they forced recognition out of one man, the king, that he had to respect their rights, and they did it by going to war with him. And when they won the war, basically saying, we're going to kill you if you don't respect our rights. That's the basis of all human freedom. We're going to kill you if you don't respect our rights. Okay? And you can see that that's the reality of human nature. But we, as men, as not animals, we can go beyond that, and we can very carefully specify where our lines lie, and we can more or less be counted upon to stay within those lines that we announce.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's simply not true. I'll respond and then I'll go.
Okay. Yep.
Your implication, though, is that all of society is about rights, individualist rights, and that we have the right to not be governed by anyone. I'm telling you, that is animals.
That is humanity. That is ownership. The man who is educated is unfit to be a slave.
Don't interrupt.
One at a time, please. Caller, please finish your sentence.
Just smoke another doobie and listen, bro.
All right, hey, I warned you once. This is the last warning. Okay?
All right,
caller,
so
please finish your sentence.
his idea of social freedom or radical individualist freedom, that's how primitive tribes live in the Congo. Civilization is about forming states. State from the Latin word status, meaning the rules by which we will agree to live by and authorities under which we will agree to elect by staying together, by staying stationary in a territory.
What is the purpose of the state?
And shush, 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 shush. Okay? Your radical conception of and extrapolation of...
You're asking me to give you carte blanche to control my life, and I'm asking you, what are you going to do for me?
Excuse me. The American Revolution of Founding Fathers was not an anarchy against the British Empire.
Of course it was.
You think?
Yeah,
No.
as a matter of fact, as the last line of what I was just trying to quote 20 minutes ago when you wouldn't let me get it out was, and that if any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, that's the end of defending liberty. That's the purpose of government, to defend my liberty. And if any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, then it is the right of the people to alter it or to abolish it. And I'm voting for abolish. What do you think?
Yeah, I know, because you're a leftist. But listen, Thomas...
Oh, yeah, I'm such a bleeding heart. That's my problem.
Yeah, you
Actually,
are.
in a way, it's true. I'm sick of seeing the government murdering people. I'm sick of having people claim that they own me and they can put me in prison for smoking weed if I don't do what I'm told. Well, I am not interested in their opinion, and when they back that opinion with a gun, they become my enemy.
Okay. All right. Let me ask a question, caller. If you don't care what he's interested in, why did you call and speak to him?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, sure. If you're not interested in what he thinks, why did you call to speak to him?
He's interested in what he thinks.
Because he's preaching absolute falsehoods, first off, about the American Revolution, the Founding Fathers, who were Christian American nationalists.
As a matter of fact, Thomas Jefferson, like me, was a deist.
Shut up.
Okay, nobody,
Shut
can you
up.
please let the caller finish his statement?
Thomas Jefferson was a deist, and he wrote a Bible, okay? So shush, let me talk.
I've got a copy.
Thomas Jefferson, when he was president, did the Louisiana Purchase. Does that sound like an anarchist? No.
It sounds like an anarchist who's in the process of making some very bad mistakes. You can add owning slaves to that list.
I think at this
You
point...
can't control this guy.
Okay, I think at this point... at this point, I think we need to move on. Caller, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much, and we do appreciate your call.
Yeah, I brought some knowledge. Some knowledge to it.
And I hope,
well, you did bring hilarity.
Unlike your guest.
All right, you take care.
Your guest.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It is 12:26. If you would like to speak to nobody, that number is 603-569-5253. Let me go back to something you said a few minutes ago.
Okay, can I make one parting comment for the dear departed?
As long as you don't insult him.
Okay. The only thing I want to say is you can call my show. Nobody tells the truth, and it's on about 10 o'clock on Friday night. And if you insult me as intelligently as you did this time, I'll let you get away with it. But don't get stupid. And once in a while, let me answer.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, you can hear you on Nobody airs on LRN.FM.
It's not currently on LRN. I'm working on getting it into the lineup, but I'd like to, but we'll see if it happens.
Where could somebody hear your show?
Basically, you can get it on Twitch. You can get it on DLive. The back episodes will be on YouTube, and there's other. So those are the current venues. I'm also a software developer, so I'm working on a platform that will allow me to self-host it, but that's going to take me a little while.
I understand. All right, we are. It's 12:28.
Yeah, it's dlive.lrn.fm. Sorry.
That's okay. Nobody is our guest today. He is running as a Republican for governor of New Hampshire. 603-569-LAKE. That's 603-569-5253 if you want to talk to him. Remember the no insult rule, and that applies to everybody. Be that as it may. One thing you said a few minutes ago, and I asked if there was any form of government, a legitimate government function. You said no. Well, what about
here's
fire protection? If somebody gets murdered, we do need some kind of police force or something to arrest that person and a place to put them in jail. And I know you've had a unique experience on that side of the law. What would your substitution be if those things are not legitimate in your eyes?
Well, when I was selling weed, I had this guy named Capuzzo that I called, and he's dead now, so I can say that. But he was one of the best men I knew. And when I had a problem, when I was afraid, I called Capuzzo. So what you need to do is choose whom you trust. Okay, and you put your trust in some group of people that claims to be able to defend you, and so you pay them to do that, and that could be a purely cooperative venture like a militia, and militias get a bad name, but the Black Panthers was a militia too. It was just another, and did a much better job of defending the black community than the police ever did. So you have the opportunity to use militia. You have the opportunity to use Brinks Home Security, and Brinks Home Security can beef up its offerings to offer whatever it is that you want in terms of defense systems. There's only one thing that a government can do that Brinks Home Security can't. The Brinks Home Security can't force you to buy their product at gunpoint if you don't want it. And the reason is because the government reserves that right as a monopoly onto itself, to force you to buy their product when you don't want it.
But so the house 2 doors down from you is on fire. So should all fire departments therefore be volunteers?
Well, I mean, if I want somebody to help me put my house on, if it's on fire, then I should probably pay him a retainer in order to make sure he's there to do that if I need it done. Now,
Isn't that tax? What's the difference between paying, say, a bill for Fred's fire protection service and paying a municipal tax for a fire department?
Well,
it comes out in the same. It comes out in the same place.
Well, it comes out almost in the same place. The difference is if the person who you buy your protection services refuses to show up and protect you when you need protection and actually violates your rights, you can fire that person and hire somebody else. But ask Black Lives Matter how hard it is to fire a police department even when they're murdering you in the streets. So why should we have any organization in our lives that's that hard to get rid of, that will literally kill you if you are not faithful to them, like a psychotic spouse?
All right, one of the most unique guests I have had here at WASR. His name is Nobody, really, and you can talk to him at 603-569-5253. I want to go back to the name change thing, if you don't mind. I can see you walking into the DMV. After you, I still think in this state you have to go to court to change your name, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh. I had to go and just answer one question.
Okay, so you take the forms from the court, you go to the DMV, and you say, "Hi, my name is now Nobody. Can I have a driver's license, please?" Did they look at you like you had 4 heads?
6.
6 heads. Okay. That in itself took courage. I'm going to stay neutral on this, or whether I believe in what you're doing or not. It's not for me to say. It's for the listeners and for you.
Thank you for being above average.
According to my wife, I'm not always, but I do my best. But what I do admire is the fact that you have an extremely thick skin. As you know, your conversation with the previous caller He was obviously very skeptical, and I'm sure you deal with those kinds of people every day.
Yeah.
I don't have that thick of a skin, which is amazing for somebody who does what I do for a living. However, you must have one that's more like an alligator. How do you deal with people who are ridiculing you for your change of name or for your views?
Well, let me tell you how I became an anarchist.
That'll work.
How I became an anarchist, and that will answer this question. I've been a libertarian all my life, but the thing that the real impetus to become an anarchist is my wife came down with cervical cancer,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and she eventually died a year and a half later, and I loved her very much.
I'm
And
sorry.
the arrogance with which the government conducted itself during that ordeal, and the fact that they contributed to her death by meddling with her medical care, including denying her medical marijuana, which is why I became a marijuana advocate, even though from the time I was 18 to the time I was 40, I didn't have a single drink or drug. That's not been smoking weed is not the definition of my life. But the but the bottom line is that nobody can hurt me anymore because I've already had it. And the ultimate insult from the government was my father was dean of pharmacy at the University of Michigan, and one of his colleagues recommended a drug. It was called an anti-angiogenic, and if call my show, I'll tell you what that means. But I don't know if it would have helped her. I don't know if it wouldn't have. But when I went to the doctor, here's what this doctor says to me, and he has no idea how close he came to death this day. He said, well, it will take us 6 months to get permission from the government to try this drug, and she'll be dead in 4. So we're not even going to try to fill out the paperwork to get the permission to treat this because their rules are more important than her life. And that is the basis of government. Their rules are more important than your life. Your right to do anything, to live, is outweighed by their right to kill you if you don't do it the way they want you to.
All right, we are coming up on a break. Our guest this afternoon is nobody. By the way, a quick Google search, angiogenic is a drug that inhibits the growth of new blood vessels in cancer. Is that correct?
Yeah, by inducing a copper deficiency.
Okay.
And I don't want to argue.
Right. No, it's all right. We can talk about it in a minute. Quick break. Back with more on WASR.
But I swear I'm gonna give a little more. Babe, I'm gonna try.
I didn't pick up on that. I've never had somebody go to bakery. Actually, that's not true. I have. Somehow I didn't. I think I kind of nailed it.
Eric, you there?
You still with me?
Hey, I'm here. He just stood up from the microphone. Just so you know, we're simulcasting this on the web. That caller actually came from that simulcast. We know his voice, and so he's an active hater.
Evidently,
he's not one of your radio listeners.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but
Yeah.
I don't want you to think that I was trying to take sides. I was just trying to, keep order.
Yep, I understand.
Okay, we have about 40 seconds before we go back to air.
Yeah, I love how he said he had a question and then just went on he never asked a question.
I know, but you know just as well as I do how people are.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
30 seconds to air. As the sweet sounds of Kansas bring us back to the Eric Scott Show on WASR, thank you for listening. My guest, nobody. Yes, he is running as a Republican for the governorship of New Hampshire. 569-5253 is our phone number, 569-LAKE. I was told during the break that the show is being simulcast on, now I forget what it was. Nobody, can you remind me?
It's on DLive. It's at you can get there through dlive.lrn.fm, and LRN is the Liberty Radio Network, which is operated by my campaign manager in denial.
Yes, and in the interest of full disclosure, it was many years ago, but I have been a guest on Free Talk Live, their libertarian-leaning show, but that was some years ago when I was working in Keene. Thanks for taking the time. You guys did a poll with RoboCent, and you did fairly well. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and according to this, well, margin of error of plus or minus about 3 points, you polled 16% to Testerman's 5 and Sununu's 79. That's not bad for a protest candidate. In fact, damn good.
Yeah, I mean, especially running against a guy who can have you killed.
Well, there is. It's not like
Testerman's a good egg, though. I like her.
Yeah, she was, was a city councilor in Franklin, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's not an anarchist like me, but as people go, she's good people.
Now, my question is, though, 'cause we're coming up with you at 16 and Sununu at 79. A St. Anselm poll taken about 2 weeks ago showed you at 0, with Sununu at 82 and Testerman at 7, unless you were coming in at other, which was about 3%.
They don't include my name in the question, so that's why nobody answers.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's how they poll if they don't want you. That's how you have to remember that the media is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. So if they don't want you heard, you're not going to be heard. If Facebook doesn't want you heard, you're not going to be heard, or very rarely.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute, nobody, because that one, I hear that a lot. Facebook is a private business. The First Amendment does not apply there. They can, if they choose, set any standards they wish, and it's fully legal.
Well,
there are many people, however, think they should not do that. Where are you on that? I mean, the First Amendment only goes so far.
I think that the first off, the First Amendment starts with Congress shall pass no law. So unless somebody can show me that Congress is meeting at Facebook and passing laws, they're not violating the First Amendment. But that idea coexists perfectly with the idea that they should not be doing what they're doing. I mean, unless you're looking out for their corporate interests, because basically what they've become by having these fact checkers is they've set themselves up as the sole arbiters of truth, which is exactly what the TV media has always claimed. But one thing that I will have to agree with, I have to agree with Trump on something. The media is fake news. It is controlled, and it is controlled with the ultimate object of reducing us to slavery. That is the purpose of the military, to make us slaves and vassals of the government and the major corporate interests.
And when you say slavery, you mean the collection of taxes?
Some people say that slavery only becomes slavery when they take 100%. But if the masters didn't feed their slaves, they died. So no master took 100%. until they did. And this master has taken 100% from a lot of people in the streets. So I do want to speak. I just want to say Black Lives Matter if you haven't heard it today.
No, I haven't actually.
I don't support the organization, but I support the movement.
Okay, that is a whole separate show, and I'm hoping
I'll be there.
I appreciate that, and I will make sure I put you on the invited guest lists when I do have that show, because that should be interesting. The whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Yes.
However, I guess my question is, I can see it in my mind where. Do you ever see RoboCop?
I have.
Okay, well, great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, see it. Ronnie Cox was fantastic in it. Anyway, so I can just see it now. 911. What is your credit card number? That seems to be kind of where we're going. If as you say, private businesses should have that those functions. That there are not any legitimate government functions at all, including defense of the country?
Yes, nobody should be forced to pay more for defense of the country than they think it's worth. If you think it's worth more, you don't force them to pay more. You put more in the pile. And if you don't want to put more in the pile, then apparently you're lying when you say it's worth more.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Good afternoon. You're on the phone with nobody on WASR.
Hey, it's me again. Got a question for the host.
Okay.
So on this question, this one I'm going to agree with your guest on. So that's why he probably already knows everything I was about to say. What's up, guest? Nobody. I'm going to agree with you on this. So just relax. Host, do you know what you guys were talking about? You brought up, this is a common libertarian talk point about how Facebook is a private company. Therefore, it gets to do whatever it wants. Free speech, the First Amendment doesn't govern it, right?
Yes, that is what I said.
Right. There's a bit of a sticky issue with these online tech companies and media, actually just media in general, but since the 90s, it's become tech media, really. We're getting away from newspapers. Have you heard of the Communications and Decency Act of, I think it's 1995?
Yes, I'm very familiar with it.
Bad law.
Okay, and do you know...
Yeah,
and section 230?
No, not off the top of my head. No.
Is that where they delineate a common carrier of information versus a publisher?
This is where, the publisher versus platform dilemma.
Right.
And
yes.
These social media companies, what they're doing is, by not identifying as either, they are getting the benefits of being both a publisher and a platform without either liability. This is as opposed to like the New York Times.
No, I absolutely with that. Actually, you're right. They seem to be able to have their cake and eat it too, as the act absolves them from liability for content they did not originate.
Well, precisely, and the thing is, they do this because the moment they say we are a publisher, and therefore we can remove or kick off people that we don't like, or we can silence opinions. We can be a left-wing, whatever. We can silence right-wing voices, or however they want to do it. They are admitting we are a publisher, not a neutral platform, and that means you can be sued for stuff that gets published on your website.
Yep,
this is why the New York Times has to be very careful with what they publish, but they get to not be right-wing. That's the trade-off you make. When you're a platform, you have to be 100% neutral. You have to let all voices on. However, you gain the safety of it is not you. The platform does not get sued for liability. It is the people that put things on the platform.
Right.
So this is why they do this, and this is why they are the most the largest corporations in the world right now are your Facebooks.
Sure.
It owns Instagram. Right?
Yep.
Instagram was the next one.
Instagram, TikTok, which is owned by the Chinese government.
That's the Chinese one, yeah.
Yes.
But it's because they don't admit. When Mark Zuckerberg was brought in, that whole meme about the old white Republican senators asking them dumb questions about tech, and Mark Zuckerberg sat there all smugly and answered them correctly, None of them even brought up Section 230. None of them brought up this law that said, I want you to tell me, is Facebook a publisher or a neutral platform? Right now, on the record. And since none of them did that, they were idiots. Or, like, I don't know, maybe they just didn't know better. They honestly didn't know. But Mark Zuckerberg and the rest of them, Twitter, I feel bad for Twitter because it actually hasn't made a profit yet. But Facebook and all of them, they're doing this so that they can have the mass appeal with with none of the liability.
You're right, and I'm of mixed feelings on whether or not we should clarify those things. I hesitate to say the First Amendment applies to Facebook because then they would be forced to host content they do not want. I mean, if it was Eric Book, there might be, there could be, for instance, or if I owned Reddit, there could be a subreddit on molesting children. And despite
I've actually got an answer to this as a programmer to what the solution to this is. And what it is you should be controlling.
Nobody, let me finish my sentence and then I'll go to you. I promise. Okay. Sure. Like I said, I'm of two minds about whether or not the First Amendment should apply to Facebook. Let's go back to the subreddit about child molestation. Obviously, Reddit does not want that on their platform, and I'm sure it's in their terms of service. But that means, all they can do is just kick the guy off. But they're like mushrooms; they'll pop up again somewhere else. So
I think with Reddit, you bring up an interesting.
All right.
Example.
Well, let me okay, caller. Let me put you on hold for 1 second. Nobody was kind of first. Nobody. Okay, your turn, sir. Nobody?
Yeah. Well, basically, my answer to that as a programmer and as a politician, first off, the question is, why do only publishers get this privilege of being able to say what they want to say under the First Amendment? So privilege comes from the Latin privis legis, which means private law. It's when the law treats one person differently than it treats another. So the way to take this privilege away from Facebook to be able to say what they want to say is to extend the right to free speech to everybody. And then there's no privilege because the law is no longer private. It's the same for everybody.
Okay, we're running short on time, and I got to move along. Caller, your reaction to that?
I get what you're saying about free speech, universalized free speech. That's not exactly what's at play here, though, because, again, we're not talking about Facebook kicking someone off of Facebook is not technically violation of free speech.
Right, we agree on that.
Right. But so he was saying, we'll give it to everybody. Yeah, but that's the government. The government has to respect free speech. If you come into my house, I can kick you out if you say something. If I post something on Facebook, they own the content. They can kick me off. However, if they decide to kick me off, they are taking the side that we are a publisher, we own our views, and we don't want your views on. We are forfeiting the right of being a neutral platform. So the moment they do that, the moment they kick anyone off, you brought up Reddit, the moment Reddit kicks off the child molestation page or whatever, or the Facebook kicks off the right-wing views because they want a left-wing, whatever. The moment they do that, they are saying we are liable to be sued for the content on our page, just like the New York Times is, just like every other private media publisher. You can't be both. If you're a neutral platform, you cannot kick people off. There are plenty of neutral platforms out there, but they don't kick people off, and they have the protection of not being sued.
Right, and we agree.
Facebook has done that. Yeah.
Don't use Facebook.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are always free not to use social media if you wish. However, it's kind of hard to survive without it nowadays, especially if you have family or friends, far away. All right, caller, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. You have a good day, sir.
Yeah, Facebook is not the government. If you don't want their product, don't buy it. But don't force me to buy the product of shutting them down or holding them liable because I don't want it.
Well, I will admit, and I think we all
don't like them.
I think we all agree that the CDA is bad law, and I also think that there's that big giant loophole that Facebook and Instagram and Reddit they've all kind of taken advantage of it. And if I owned Facebook, I would too. But I'm not sure I want to close the loophole because it may present more problems than it solves. However, in our remaining minutes with Nobody, please feel free to give us a call if you'd like. 569-5253. The area code to New Hampshire is 603. It's Eric Scott on WASR. So let me ask you this.
I guess the last thing I wanted to say about that is Facebook is digging its own grave. You don't have to do it for them because people can leave.
Yes.
And they will.
And I think it's been shown in a smaller concept with DirecTV and others providers are bleeding subscribers, especially DirecTV. And I could do a whole show on the experience I had with them yesterday, which was just, that was a mind blower, that one. Anyway, but you're right. It's kind of like MTV, it grows, it becomes the next big thing, and then technology changes, and MTV was obsolete. MTV was put out of business by YouTube, which is really why they had to change to the reality programming, because, linear music videos wasn't going to make it, because YouTube, you could have it on demand. It's a better product, and, it was available anywhere you had a data connection.
Yeah.
So,
and if somebody comes along and does social media without trying to be the ultimate arbiter of truth, or that their opinion should be plastered on top of my opinions, then they will be providing a better product than Facebook, and people will beat a path to their door. Yeah, and I'm hoping to be that guy, but I want to see it self-hosted so you control your own data. You control your own platform. You say what you want to say. And if people don't like it, they're welcome to lump it.
Okay.
But you network those together so that you have searchability and that sort of thing.
Well, to be fair, Facebook is free because it sells your data. You voluntarily give up that data in exchange for the service.
I think you might need to redefine the word free, because that doesn't sound free to me.
Okay, without monetary cost.
Yes, but there is a cost.
Right,
There's a cost to everything. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch.
No, you're right. And as my favorite police chief Rondo in Wolfeboro says, there are second and third orders of effects.
Yeah,
and that's kind of where my dilemma is about the platform thing. But be that as it may, in our remaining minutes, we have about 3 more minutes together. Nobody and I. What would happen to your salary if you actually won the governorship? Would you take it? Would you pay taxes on it?
Well, basically, I would probably donate some of it to my church, and I would probably, I don't know what, I wouldn't leave the government with it because, they have a track record of using their money to kill people and imprison them when they don't need to be imprisoned, and make war on them when they don't need war made on them. So I will take as much money away from the government as I possibly can. But if it's unreasonable, I might not keep it for myself.
But that paycheck comes from the government.
And the other thing that I will do is to the best of my ability, prevent them from gathering up taxes, because that's where the crime is. The person who's victimizing the public is not the person who takes money from the government. It's the person who gives money to it. Okay, because you're giving them power to hurt somebody else. Okay, and why are you doing it? Not because you love them, because you're afraid of them, because you know that they'll hurt you, they'll tear your family apart, they'll destroy your life if you don't do as you are told. They will kill you. They don't care. They're psychopaths.
Okay. Question. Roads and bridges, how would they be maintained under your administration?
By construction companies.
And who would pay for that?
Well, that's really for them to arrange, because, there's a lot of them and they know their business better than I do. But they would obviously somebody's going to have to pay for it if it's going to happen. And if nobody wants to do it out of the goodness of their heart, then they're going to have to find a way to get paid for it. And that would probably involve a system of tolls, which could be easily done with electronic sensors in the roads with today's technology. So that, yeah, maybe you're paying a different person for every mile of road you're driving down. Who cares if the computer figures it out for you?
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Nobody, I would like to thank you very much for your time today and for your answers. Polling
Thank you.
percent and doing fairly well, I understand, among independent voters.
Can I give them my URL?
Absolutely.
It's www.electnobody.com, because nobody knows how to live your life better than you do, and nobody deserves that kind of power.
All right, that's electnobody.com. Again, thank you very much for making the time. You hold on for me today because I want to get some information from you. All right?
Absolutely.
All right, you hold on. Thank you very much for making WASR a part of your day. I'm Eric Scott. News on the way.
We'd like to invite you to visit freekeen.com. Freekeen.com features audio, video, and blogs chronicling the transition to a voluntary society. Freekeen.com also has comments and discussion forums so you can be heard. Freekeen.com.
I should be in Keene, New Hampshire with the Free Staters.